We're here for the next episode of the WWGC 2022 Roving Reporter Series. I'm here today with Jane and we're at Shennington Airfield. So Jane, you are going to be competing in the Women's Worlds next year and you have competed in some Europeans before. So do you want to explain what the Europeans were like back then?
Oh, I'd love to, yeah. So I've been chosen to fly in the 18 metre class and I'll be flying a JS3. So I'm really looking forward to that. Way back in 1991, I was lucky enough to be selected to fly for the British team then as well. And that was the Women's European Championships, also held at Husbands Bosworth. Back then there were 30 competitors in two different classes. We had a standard class and a 15 metre class, and I flew a Ventus in the 15 metre class. I just had a baby, so I was also looking after a 5-month-old daughter, Jennifer, so it was all pretty tough for me. But it was so different because we had different types of instruments, very basic instruments. We had to prove we hadn't landed and show the duration of the flight by smoking a barograph, which we don't use these days. We just navigated using a map. So the instrumentation was fairly basic. The team, this is the team here, I've got a photograph of the team. So we had 6 entrants way back then. We had Pam Hawkins, we had Karina Hodgson, Jill Burry, Jill Spreckley, we had Lynn Norman and myself sitting at the front there. So, and as you can see by our uniforms were pretty much cobbled together with blue t-shirts and jeans, basically, that's it. It was interesting because it was the first time I'd ever met the team was on the first day of the competition. So we'd never had any pre-training or anything beforehand. And we were faced with a whole load of competitors. It was the 1990s. And they all had these kind of shell suits, and they all looked very smart, by comparison to us. We had some interesting incidents. A couple of ladies had driven all the way from Russia to Husbands Bosworth. They'd driven for 5 days and arrived. They had very little money at all, and they found that the camping on site was too expensive. So they camped outside in a lay-by off the airfield. Someone on the airfield took pity on them and paid for them to go to a hotel and at least have a room in a hotel, but they got into trouble there because they couldn't afford the meals and they were cooking up on a gas stove in their room, so they got into trouble there. But nevertheless, it was a great experience. It was wonderful to see just how good women were at flying, and it was great camaraderie. It was really excellent. If we look now at this year's competition, so it's changed from a Europeans into a Women's World Gliding Championships. There's already 40 entrants, and there'll be 3 different classes. So we've got the club class, the standard class, the 18 metre class, and so many different new things. So we've got fantastic flying instruments, we've got FLARM to make sure that we can keep our distance from other gliders. We no longer have to carry a barograph, we carry loggers which can be downloaded when we return back to the airfield. And the gliders, of course, are so much bigger, better and cleaner and much faster. So I think that as long as the British weather holds up, we should have some fantastic flying, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, thank you so much, Jane. That was so inspirational to see what it was like back then and see how much different it's changed now. Thank you so much for your time. Stay tuned for the next episode.